Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another episode of On the Couch with Creatives. I say good morning because I'm here in the UK, but good afternoon or good evening if you're anywhere else in the world. I'm Melanie Perry.
I'm Julie Hyde-Mew.
And this is On the Couch with Creatives. Fans and followers of the show will know that we're part of the Creatives Group, a private network for creative professionals across the globe. Together, we help you to create, connect and grow your creative business. So if that sounds like you and you'd like to join our ever-growing network of creative professionals, do feel free to contact us after the show. But as I say, this is On the Couch with Creatives. So Julie, who do we have on the couch today?
On the couch today is JAY STANSFIELD, and Jay is an artist whose children's brand, the Squibbles, received the IndyBest Top 10 Colouring Books in 2021. He's the founder of Squibblesville Studios. His 3D modelling has been exhibited in Miami and New York. He's based here in the UK. Let's get him on the couch, Melanie. Hello, Jay. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Well, you call yourself a multi-potentialite. I've never heard that term before. So please explain to us.
So that is actually a term that I recently discovered in the last year or so, which basically describes someone who has slight neurodivergence and focuses on many things. You know, they say the jack of all trades, master of none, but multi-potentialite really is you skilled in multiple areas, which is something I've been developing over the last 43 years of life, and sometimes it's frustrating. So I was glad when I discovered that term, because it kind of helped me a little bit to understand that I'm unable to just focus on one skill. Like a lot of people can focus, I don't know, they could focus on just illustration, for example. That would be handy. Or they could just focus on video editing. That would be handy. I sometimes dream about that life, but I'm unable to do that. It causes a lot of frustration, a lot of stress, a lot of emotional upheaval for me. So what I do is basically take all my skill sets and bring them into one thing usually. It'll be that or this, or, you know, I'm able to apply them all to one thing.
So you're not simply an artist. You have the potential of being an artist in everything. I
suppose so, yeah.
I mean, I love that term because, as you rightly say, Jay, and we've been discussing this a lot on other shows as well, is that people who really do have tons of creative talent are people who are neurodiverse and are people who think in a different way and perform in a different way and can do things that other people can't.
Yeah. And I mean, it's funny because it kind of used to, when I think back to primary school, it came out then too. I used to draw in my books a lot, but I used to draw in my books because I felt that it would highlight like a story that I was writing or something, or even maths. I used to draw things in my books and try and apply the different topics and to other topics, you know, because I could never focusing on one thing, like focusing on maths, for example, I found very, very challenging. It was really challenging for me. It used to upset me actually, because maths is it's very logical, isn't it? It's very, you know, this is what it is. There's no other number for it. 1 + 1 is 2, for example. And I used to struggle kind of having to have that disciplined mindset for that particular subject. I actually cried before I went to high school because I was so concerned about maths.
That's horrible. I can relate to that because I couldn't ever get my head around maths either, and my son struggles with it as well, and he's always drawing and doodling and getting told off. Like they have whiteboards now that they do stuff on, and he's always getting it taken away from him because he's drawing on it rather than doing what he's supposed to. And I just said to the teacher, oh, and it's so awful because he's such a bright boy and blah 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 blah. And I said, well, he's an artist. deal with it. You know, he's not ever going to do anything with maths. Let him have the iPad and let him make a fortune as, like I say, as an artist or an illustrator, because quite frankly, I don't really care that he's not that fussed about maths, really.
Yeah,
I know from life experience.
How do you make your living then, Jay? Because as an artist who's not good at that, how do you actually bring in the wonga?
That's a good question. It kind of comes from various sources. So the most recent job I had, for example, was a video editing job. So money came from that. Money has come from I worked with Bookmark Reading, a charity who help children learn to read. They have a program where for this particular one, they were providing boxes for children coming over from Ukraine. And so they asked me to illustrate the lid of these like 3,000 boxes or however many there were. But they also bought in a lot of copies of Squibbles, the colouring books, to put in the boxes as well. So that was kind of an income source there. So it comes from all over the place. It's very, I will say it's frustrating, and I know that anyone who is self-employed will know exactly what I'm talking about. There are periods where there is no income, and I find that that's challenging, but I've learned to let go of that over recent years. It's really important not to get too worried about that stuff, because things always work out, especially if you keep going and you're always pushing yourself and moving forwards. It's inevitable, but it's still difficult when there is no income. That's a challenge.
Yeah. And it's,
you should, if you love what you do, the money will come. Melanie and I are still waiting for the millions, but we're holding on to that precept.
Keep going. Honestly, that's the mindset. You've got to focus on that. For me, I mean, I've got a big dream. I want to make $1 million from the Squibbles. That's my goal. Just to see what it's like having $1 million. I mean, it's not because I want a Lambo and I want a big yacht and stuff or whatever. I just want to know what it would be like, and I feel like having a dream that big actually involves a lot of big decisions, a lot of challenging decisions, probably a lot of challenging moments, because that amount of money doesn't come easily, does it? And when it does arrive, you've got to be ready. You've got to be like the person who is ready to have that.
Yeah. As I was talking to somebody about, I think we're talking about winning the lottery or something. And I said, there are people who win like vast amounts, especially on Euro Millions. They go from being like a normal person to having maybe upwards of 60, 70, 80 million, And it's like people having money doesn't solve all your problems, but it brings a whole set of new ones. You're going to have to know how to manage that money, and people that are going to suddenly be attracted to you because of all that money and inland revenue and scary things like that. You're going to inland revenue. You have to know about all this stuff, and not knowing about somebody. I think anybody just needs a really good financial advisor who understands that stuff. Because to me, it's just like, can't.
Well, we have financial advisors in our creators group, and they are people who know math and know how to add one and one, and know how the creative minds work, and they specialize in providing services to creative people. But let's get onto the Squibbles. Tell us all about the Squibbles.
The Squibbles fill me with joy, I have to say, a lot. Every day. The Squibbles, they've evolved from lockdown, as many things have. Because I've got 2 daughters and they were both off school, and they were home learning with the laptop and the horrible frequencies of the speakers, etc. And I just thought, it was relentless. There was no space. There was no real space for them to breathe, really. And I just thought, how many other parents and families are going through this? There was so many, like millions. And I just thought, what could I do to alleviate some of that claustrophobia, if you want to call it that? So I started drawing some characters to create a colouring book. I thought it'd be a great idea. My wife, I was discussing it with my wife as well, because she loves my illustration. She's always admired my illustration. So she's, we were sort of like discussing it. I thought, okay, let's do a colouring book. So I started drawing, took a week or so, something like that. And I had about 30 characters, 30 pages, and I just wanted to make a book. So I thought, what's the best way to do it? And I came across Amazon KDP, and I thought, let's give it a whirl. So I basically just uploaded it and published a colouring book, and that's where Squibbles was born. And some of the characters from that I turned into a reading book, which is Meet the Squibbles. And those characters from there have kind of taken on a life of their own, especially Colne. Colne is the guy who likes music and records and chilling out a bit, but he likes exploring as well. And so he's kind of become the flagship character for the Squibbles as Colne. He's currently a crocheted version of Colne, which my mum has done. She's fantastic, just from a drawing. He's on his way to America at the moment. I've got, what's on my board? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got about 7 people who are prepared to take him in for a week, and they're going to be taking photos with him in various locations. And he's got a little NFC chip in his headphone. So if you just scan it with your phone, you can upload the photos that you take with him. And those photos are going into an interactive experience that you can view on the web. And they're also being turned into NFTs that are going to be combined into this one big nested sort of NFT for people to maybe buy one day, and generate some funds for the Squibbles animated TV show.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. And I mean, looking at I used to work for Disney, so whenever I see things, the first thing that kind of goes into my head is the commercial viability of something, and where can you put it and what can you do with it. And when I first saw a little clip of the Squibbles on YouTube, I mean, it is eminently brandable, and I saw them as plushies, the characters as plushies that they're bright and they're colourful, and I think younger children would love to have these lovely plushy characters, and I think that you could do a lot with it. Merchandisable, that's the word I was trying to think of. I've got brain fog this morning. Merch. Yeah, exactly. So pictures and plushies and stories and TV series and a film. You could bring they did that with Moshi, didn't they? Moshi had a thing and bedtime stories, and they brought out a film of it. Who knows where it can go.
Yeah, I mean, all those things are just entirely possible, and they're what I'm kind of pitching to potential investors about, who can help with the animated show. We're actively looking for investment on that. Initially, we founded it through selling digital collectibles, or NFTs, or digital collectibles, digibles. So we've got a few people who have, funded it initially. It was a very small amount, minimal amount, but regardless of that, it managed to get it rolling. I'm not sure if it's sustainable trying to fund it through digital collectibles. Again, it's still such a young technology. I've got high hopes for it, for sure, and I want to integrate it into the Squibbles along the way. I built quite a community of people who are into Web3 and into digital collectibles and stuff, who are massive supporters of the Squibbles. So that's part of it, but traditional investment, we need it. We need someone to say, here's this, show us what we're going to make back, and we can say, well, we've got the potential for merchandise, licensing, all these things can come back. Yeah, because it's hard to get a TV series. I'm looking at developing something, and I read a fantastic book called TV Development Guide of how to get your idea from your head and pitching to the various people. And to get an indie film made is a lot easier than trying to do a TV series, because TV series are so expensive that they're only really picked up by the broadcasters.
You know, unless you're doing it on YouTube and doing it as a little indie thing on YouTube that may or may not go anywhere, it's very hard to get things that you're putting out on YouTube picked up by a big, by a network TV, like, you know, I see Squibbles on something like Nickelodeon or you know, Disney Channel, or, you know, the big ones that are CBeebies, or, you know, but it's hard to get your foot in the door and to get them to sit up and finance something like that.
That makes me want to do it even more.
Yeah, it's doable. It is doable, definitely. But yeah, wouldn't it be lovely to see it on, you know, mainstream? You turn on the TV and there's the Squibbles.
Yeah, it'd be pretty fantastic for sure.
So what are you thinking of? Are you thinking of like a 15-minute daily episode, or what are you thinking of?
So the plan is 12 episodes for the first series or season for America. Episodes between like 12 to 15 minutes long, because they're aimed at younger children. So they're going to involve a little bit of drawing at the beginning, and then the show moves into a story, and then there's a bit to wrap it up at the end, teaching children about values and self-love and things like that. So, and kindness and community and inclusion and all those wonderful things we need more of.
But there will be rollicking good stories.
Absolutely, yeah, of course. Yeah, teaching children how to navigate through the world in a respectful and wholesome way, really, but also fun to watch, you know, and relaxing.
Fun, yeah.
And relaxing. That for me, there are too many bombastic, like noisy cartoons out there. And personally, based on my own daughter, who watches a lot of that stuff, I'm not so sure it's the best for young kids to be watching. You know, it's all right to have a peaceful show. You know, you think of an animated show, people immediately go to this like wild, sort of crazy, noisy place, I'd say. But, you know, the Squibbles, I want it to be more of a relaxing, I don't say like 80% relaxing, you know, with some fun thrown in, a bit of drama, but nothing too crazy.
Nothing too frenetic.
Yeah, because there was a study done, and I can't remember the name of it now, but there was a study done that some cartoons on mainstream TV are actually damaging our children, because the flashing of the images and the changing of the sequence of the images is so quick that the kids are absolutely frenetic when they come away from the TV, and they're kind of like addicted to it, and they, you know, their parents are having a real hard time getting them to calm down afterwards. And there has been a study that's saying actually there are certain cartoons that perhaps your children shouldn't be watching because of the pace of it. So bringing things down a little bit and making it, dare I say, safer for our children to watch, you know, I think is not necessarily a bad thing.
No, and I wanted to base it on the things I watched as I was growing up in like the 1980s. There was a lot of cartoons that were very well paced. They weren't, like you said, frenetic. And I want to, it needs that vibe. You know, there's going to be a lot of static camera shots. There's going to be a lot of stillness and just slight movement and things with like I say, with a bit of drama thrown in, but not lots of scene changes. You know, like the classic stop frame kind of bagpuss style animation.
I used to love watching Heidi, and not as a little kid, as a teenager. The animated Heidi series. I loved it. And all she did was wake up, run down the hill, run up again, pat a few sheep, and I just loved it.
Yeah, the simplicity wins most of the time. I think we lose track. We lose touch with simplicity, I think, especially when it comes to children.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think on that note, we're going to just play a little clip of the Squibbles. We've got a trailer that you sent. So let's just take a look at the Squibbles. So that was your first look at the Squibbles. And Jay, people can they find the Squibbles on YouTube? Where can they find
They can
to.
find the Squibbles on YouTube, yeah. If they type in the Squibbles, they will be able to find it. It's youtube.com/@the-Squibbles. YouTube changed the formatting, so yeah, they can find it there.
Well, we've got the
And you
details
founded
going across the screen.
Squibblesville Studios in order to drive this whole project forward?
Yes, I found it's very important to have some accountability, and I know for investors they just wouldn't want some guy and his mates making a cartoon, and I wanted to show that it is serious, it is a professional production, and the company is very dedicated to bringing nice things for children and families. So I wanted it to be more kind of, official, really. It's the official umbrella corpse for the Squibbles.
Well, the wombats used to be very popular. There's no reason why the Squibbles can't be.
There we go. Let's hope so.
Absolutely. They do. Going back to say about children's TV. I grew up. Yeah, it would have been sort of 80s, I guess, where I would have seen most of my children's TV, and they had some really lovely things for children, like Button Moon and the Flumps, and all the things that you remember, like those. I remember with the effect of Finger Mouse and things like that. Really simple stuff that were just so lovely. And there's only a few things that I've got a son who's 9 now, and some of the stuff that we used to watch on CBeebies or whatever, and some of it you thought, oh, that's really nice. I love the Octonauts, because you learn quite a lot with the Octonauts. I like them, but some of it was just absolute, like, I can't, and I thought, no, we're not watching that again. We're not watching that again.
Yeah, something that used to stand out for me was Bing. That was quite well paced.
Bing, yes.
I wasn't keen. Yeah, I wasn't massively keen on the stories. They were a bit lackluster. No offence if anyone from Bing is watching, of course, but that's just my critique. I just found them a bit boring.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your 3D modelling. What kind of, talk to us about some of the works you've done.
So I've been 3D modelling for a considerable amount of time, since my 20s actually, but I've never really put anything out there because it just wasn't my focus, I suppose, in that area. There was no room for it, and plus my computer wasn't really that good enough to render scenes and things. But since the Squibbles, I don't know, the stars have aligned, I don't know, but some software came out called Nomad Sculpt, and after investing in an iPad, which ramped up my productivity tremendously. I've always had iPads, but I thought, I'm going to get one with a pencil and everything, which I managed to fund through Digital Collectibles, which I was absolutely buzzing about. So I've done this. But Nomad Sculpt is basically this fantastic 3D sculpting program, similar to some software called ZBrush, which I used to use back in the day. And honestly, it's been amazing. It's given me such a fantastic opportunity to create the Squibbles in 3D, which has just been fabulous, and B, actually find a few clients where I'll turn their 2D illustrations into 3D characters, which I love doing. I don't know, there's a bit of a link there with my mum, isn't there? She just turns 3D crochet from 2D. But yeah, I started doing that, and it's just, honestly, I love 3D sculpting so much, honestly, Julie. It just gets me there. It's there.
There we can see. We can see your passion. It's wonderful. I love things in 3D as well. And that could be another income stream for as well, turning things from customers into sort of plain 2D to 3D. Even like, we could do that with logos, maybe even having a nice 3D logo, swishy. We might have to come and talk about it. That's a swishy 3D, swishy logo. I love stuff in 3D. It does. It just makes it come alive, doesn't it?
It's fantastic, and it's very modern as well, and I've always had an interest in it anyway. I've had computers since I was 7, and I used to be absolutely in love with the chart show graphics. I used to say to my mum and dad, I'm like, it's graphics that? And they'd say, what are you talking about? Like, it's been done on a computer, it's 3D. And they just didn't believe me. How can they not understand that? So yeah, I've always had a vested interest in 3D.
What do you think the technology of sort of 3D will look like, a few years from now? Because technology in the drawing and art space has come on so much in the last few years, and the AI kind of space, or VR space, should I say? Not AI. That's the VR space. Could you see the Squibbles becoming like a virtual reality pop up in somebody's living room?
Well, there's so much to talk about. So currently I'm working with a chap called Lee Probert and Carlo Santoriello, who is helping with is bringing the Squibbles to life. And we're doing an adventure around London in AR. So basically Colin has found a portal in Squibblesville, because he loves adventuring and exploring. And he's gone through it and he's found himself kind of lost in London. So the Squibbles have realised that he's gone, and they discover this portal too. So they've followed him to London. And so families are able to go around London, different locations, and do little quests, collecting things and interacting with some of these Squibbles they're kind of looking for Colin, but got a bit distracted by the sights of London. So you can basically just interact with it, and it's so far it's looking really great. It's really great. I mean, I love VR. I've been into VR for about a decade, and this time next year, I mean, I'm a huge fan of AI as well. I don't care if people don't like it; they're just scared. I say this time next year, we will literally be speaking 3D environments into existence. We will, and I know that based on the rapid speed that AI is growing, the things that I've been experimenting with and looking at, it's guaranteed we'll be able to speak our environments into existence, which excites me so much.
So you could actually be walking through the streets of London with the Squibbles and playing a game with them.
Yeah, so
finding treasures and
so you can take your phone out and you can find the Squibble and you can interact with the Squibble in that way.
I can see that. Yeah.
That's happening. I mean, we're looking at that in the next couple of months or something. Yeah. Hopefully we can get it out there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
I had a virtual reality experience. I went into space. It was mind-blowing. Yeah. Mind-blowing. And then I went onto the stage with the Rolling Stones.
Amazing.
That's fantastic. So I can imagine walking through the streets of London with the Squibbles.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it'd be brilliant.
Yeah, well, when you launch it, please tell us.
Oh, absolutely, I will. I'll keep in touch with that one. Yeah,
absolutely. And you also have another string to your bow. This multi-talented man. God, an hour is not enough, Jay, to talk to you. We'll have to do about like a series or something. Talk to us about All Hail Hyena.
Sure. So All Hail Hyena is the band that I perform in and write songs with. We've been together 6 years. We're from Burnley in Lancashire, which is, I'm from Colne in Lancashire, so very close. But we've been doing really well. Last year we had a video go viral on Reddit. So we were asked to perform in the garden for one of our number one fan, basically. Sorry, Jeff. And his wife asked us to play for his birthday / their anniversary. So we were like, of course, they support us so much. And this is a lesson for any band out there, support your fans. If they support you support your fans more. Make it a game. See how much more you can support your fans than they can support you. And so we went to the garden. It was such a hot day, we were melting. It was so hot. But he had no idea that we were going to be performing in his garden. And he turned up and it literally blew his mind. And seeing his face was just, it was difficult to keep it together, I have to say. But someone filmed it and they put it on Reddit and it just blew up. Like, people think it's amazing. It's had over 12 million views on Reddit, which is just fantastic. And that's absolutely blown our band up. Like, everyone went to our Spotify, everyone went to our YouTube channel, and we've got, you know, at one point earlier this year, we had upwards of like 15,000 monthly listeners on our Spotify, which for us is just mind-boggling. We absolutely love it. We're so grateful, and it's just kept going. So we've been added to playlists, and we've just been doing really well on the back of that. So, you know, it's been fantastic.
And for those of you who want to see that famous garden clip, here it is.
No way! I win! Yeah!
Goodness me, artist, 3D modeler, musician. You really weren't kidding when you said what was the word?
Multi-potentialite.
Multi-potentialite.
I have to say, I'm not like a huge fan of labels, and like that's, I suppose it's for me more than anyone else to keep myself, you know, grounded in the fact that if I feel like, oh, you know, I'm flapping over here, or I'm not focused enough on that, I can bring it back and feel a bit more comfortable.
Well, we can't pin you down really as anything. I introduced you as an artist, but you summit and you're a musician and everything else. Is there something you can't do besides math?
DIY. Can't do DIY. Terrible. Can't even put a shelf on a wall.
Well, hopefully your wife is good at that.
She's not. She's terrible as well. So
well.
you're stuck there.
Then you pay somebody to do it.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
What are your top 3 tips? Now, because you are into so many things, I'm not quite sure how to ask you what your top 3 tips are for musicians, for artists, for 3D modelers. But as a very creative person, and potentially with fingers in every creative pie, what would your top 3 tips be to people who are like you?
I'd say worry about money less. It's not worth it. Genuinely not worth it at all, ever. Worry about money less. It's not easy, but worry about money less. I'd say take more risks. Life is genuinely not long enough not to take a risk on something. And if you take a risk and it goes wrong, what's the worst that can happen, you know? Better to take a risk than not do it at all, because you don't want to start building up a bank of regrets. And my 3rd tip is don't listen to gurus. There are plenty of people out there who claim to be gurus. If you ever see guru in the title, just block. Maybe not that harsh, but you know, don't listen to gurus. Just listen to people who resonate with you and who show respect. Those are my tips.
Fantastic, very good ones. And I'm going to throw one in there as well. Was one of Rob's along the same lines. Is, you know, don't listen to people who haven't been there and done it themselves. You know, so there's a lot of people who love to give creative people advice from their 9 to 5 sturdy, boring job that's sucking their soul out. And, you know, it's just like, yeah, okay, whatever.
It's easy to give advice when you've got a 9 to 5.
Isn't it?
Or an inheritance, or you're a trust fund baby.
Or an inheritance, yeah. Wouldn't that be good?
I know, I'd like to be a trust fund baby. Not. I'd quite like to be. So, you know, please, in the words of Del Boy, love only fools and horses. You know, one of his, when Del was beseeching, you know, because he's always after the money, so please, God, let me prove to you that having money won't spoil me.
Well, while we wait for the millions to roll in, Jay, we'd just like to thank you so much for chatting to us on the couch. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's that time, Julie. It's that time.
Oh,
it's that time. Don't cut me off.
Don't
cut me off without the cards.
Jam. Oh, I beg your pardon. Here I am saying goodbye, and we haven't finished.
And
Hello.
I think I can't sweat then.
While Melanie gets all tactile with her cards, the values jam, I'll explain it to you. Values jam, on every card is a value. And on the back of every card, there are a series of questions. And it digs deeper into your psyche and also makes you think a little bit. I hate this out of the box. It's so cliched. But you're going to pick a value. You're going to pick a card. It's going to have a value on it. And then she's going to ask you a question or one or two. And you just spew out whatever comes into the creative mind of yours, no matter how ridiculous you think it is.
Yeah, this is the on the couch part of on the couch. Just gonna let our viewers get to know you a little bit better. Right, I'm gonna run my finger along the top. You just yell stop.
Stop.
Right in the middle. Right, what have we got?
I knew it'd be that one.
Ooh, this is a very, very good one for somebody like you. And well, any creative really, and anybody who's got their own business certainly. But from what we were talking about, as you have so many different things that you have on the go, you picked adaptability. Okay, adaptability. Now, there's usually a set of questions that I like to ask, but Julie doesn't like me asking them because she wants me to mix things up. So I'm going to ask.
No, I do like you asking them, but we ask the same questions all the time. Ask another question on the card.
All right, I'll ask another one. Okay, so for our regular viewers, we're breaking the tradition. We're going to ask a completely different question now. Okay. How do you think more adaptability could improve the world?
Ooh. I feel that my friend's phrase here is relevant, which is adapt and overcome, because people are very quick to panic, people are very quick to give up, and I feel those things only happen because they're not prepared to adapt to a new environment or a new way of life or a new mindset. And adaptability takes practice. It takes the ability to shift your mindset, which is a fantastic skill to learn, and always seek that out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because if something doesn't work, you have to adapt. Or, as they used to say in South Africa, when they were trying to convince the government to wrap up apartheid, end it. Basically, they said adapt or die.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just have to.
It's quite an extreme view, but yeah, it's kind of true.
And as a musician, my next question, I'm going to get one of these in. Your next question, as a musician, if adaptability had a sound, what would it sound like?
It's a frequency. It's a frequency.
It would be that, I think.
It's
someone vacuuming.
I listen to frequencies. It's quite amazing. They're very relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Drone.
I love that.
Right. I'm now going to say thank you so much for talking to us, Jay. So sorry about that, but earlier. But I would like to say thank you very much for talking to us. As Melanie says, that you have so many fingers and so many pies. We could talk about all of them forever, really. But we wish you all the best in your endeavours, and please tell us when the Squibbles gets, the TV series gets launched, or wherever you're going, every step of the way, we want to hear about it.
Absolutely. You've been lovely. You're both very lovely people. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, it's been
you're
delightful.
welcome.
As I say, I could just go on all day, but I'm conscious that we do have to let you go at some point. We'll hold you hostage. It really has been wonderful to talk to you and find out about everything that you've been doing, and the details have been going across the screen, and details are also in the show notes. And anybody watching, do connect with Jay, follow him, find out what he's doing, and if there are any supporters out there, especially in the TV space, come along and talk.
Investors,
funders, investors,
money.
And got money.
Bring your money
In a bucket.
Pay for this show.
Your money.
Show us the money. Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to see the Squibbles developed into something great, because I think it's got huge loads of potential. But thank you, Jay. Thank you to our viewers for joining us for another session of On the Couch. But until next time, we'll see you